So we're going to get right to it. This video has two parts. First, intro to the actual what I'm going to be doing, which is working with the 555 on the inputs here of the MV1 Verse Lab as a supplemental sampler, and I'm going to show you why and how I use it currently, how I use the MV and the SP together, and what better way than to actually demonstrate the closest SP to the 404 Mark II, the SP555. Oh yeah, this is the fun. This one is almost like the Mark II. As a matter of fact, the SP555 and Mark II share such a close sample profile that I got to go over it with you guys, right? So the 404 Mark II just came out just after the MV1 Verse Lab release, not too long after. And it has all the cool sample features that we wish the MV had. I don't know why they didn't include it on the MV1 Verse Lab, but you know, maybe that's why. But it is mind-blowing what they put on the 404 Mark II. However, the SP555 had basically the same sample profile as the 404 Mark II has. So to give you a brief overview of the 555, the 555 was released in 2008, and it's the bastardized, I call it the bastardized issue of the SP series because it abandons the zero in the product number. Roland still managed to put a greatest hits of the features from the previous models on the now legendary groove boxes. So all the effects like the lo-fi compressor, the vinyl simulator, the filter drive button, the lo-fi sample rate made popular on earlier models like the 303, 404, they're all combined with other new effects at that time in 2008 on the onboard 555, and you had like dedicated, like 5 dedicated features like the delay, the isolator, and the super filter, which was new, right on board, right? And you have something on the 555 that is unique. Like all the SPs always have something that is kind of unique about them, right? The 303 had the vinyl sim compression. The 202, which is the first one in '98, had the time stretch algorithm, was crazy. 606 is the only one where you can use 2 instances of the M effects simultaneously, right? And the 606 also introduced something else that the 555 and 404 Mark II inherited. Later on that in a minute. But the 555 employs something also called loop capture. And we're going to get into that as well because that previously was unseen on the SP series, and it allowed for creation of perfect 2-bar and 4-bar loops to be arranged in the pattern sequencer, right? With this feature, the 555 kind of strayed away. It's a couple of things the 555 strayed away from that I think made it less popular than the 404 series and all the other SPs before it. One was the cleaner sound engine that it put on here. This is 24-bit. 96 kilohertz, which means it was much cleaner than the 16-bit uncompressed sound engines of the previous SP samplers, like the 404, 606, 808. All those things are like 12-bit or 16-bit or something. This thing is 24-bit, and more than likely it's because it was also used as an interface in 2008. I had it set up to be an interface with my Windows computer, but I rarely use that feature anyway, okay? But it's on there if you want it. It has the same amount of IOs that the 404 Mark II has. It may even have an extra IO because up here in the corner of the 555 there is a mic slash guitar kind of line instrument input as well as a mic pre, and that brings me to the effect set of the 404, of the 555. The 404 and the 555 also share the exact same amount or number, the number count of the effects that you come with it. So the 404 shipped with 37 effects. This shipped with 37 effects. Now, the 555 leans more towards amp simulators, mic processors, and distortion and stuff like that. They have a radio mic setting on here, so it's more set to implement live instrumentation. Which, say, if you played guitar, you know what I mean, you could jack it in here, get a distortion pedal going, and mind you, just like its big brother, the MV, these are boss pedal type things. Like this is the boss chorus, the flangers and the distortion and the amp simulators, the EQ. All that stuff is on the 555. Another shared characteristic with the 404 and 555 is the 16 pads, along with the roll function over here and quantize. They have quantization on here. I mean, it's not the deepest quantization, but it's quantization nonetheless. It makes it where you didn't really have to get off beat. Okay, so if you're familiar with the common practice of the 404, it was to sample from pad to pad, and you couldn't get a precise sample from pad to pad. So the samples, especially if it had percussion, would get slightly off beat, like what you hear in lo-fi. Let's just say like a J Dilla type feel, where it would just slightly get off beat because there was phrase samples and you were sampling phrases and you couldn't get the exact chop, and it would kind of give you a little offbeat pattern. Now that offbeat pattern became a very enduring feature and a beloved feature among the lo-fi guys and SP users, period, right? Well, the SP55 made it where you didn't have to get off beat because it had a quantized feature, it had roll, aka timing correct, it had a loop capture where you can capture perfect 2-bar loops. So let me give you an example, right?
I wonder. I wondered what was wrong. 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 I wondered what was wrong.
You can basically have a loop coming even in the inputs, because you can hit this button and source select would turn to now that it's on, the lights on, you can record whatever's coming into the inputs as well as what's coming into the pads. So I'll give you an example of how that worked out. So I'm going to delete this real quick. The drum pattern you hear in this pattern came from my MV, and I had the MV going into the inputs of the SP555. So as I'm playing that drum loop coming from the external source, I'm hitting these pads, and that's what this is. And after a while, you come up with multiple versions of the beat, all with a similar tempo, as you can see right up here. If you can't see it, I'm telling you, it's all at a similar tempo. And you eventually can chain it into a pattern.
It's almost time. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off.
Now, this is all sequenced and created inside the SP555. The only thing that's coming in from the external source is the drum pattern. And the drum roll, the hi-hat that you hear in the back, that's all done inside the SP555. Now, mind you, none of this was none of this was possible prior to the 555 as far as doing this part. It's not offbeat, it's 24-bit. You could pipe this straight into your DAW. You could save the patterns on a software program. So everything that the full 4 Mark II is doing, they had done it already. It wasn't new. That particular sequence is how you can use loop capture to make an entire pattern with the SP. So let me give you another example. You got this. You can also use the SP to just chop whole versions of your song. So once again, tapping into my MV. Now, how does that roll with the MV? Well, the plan is, and I've done it before so far, is to basically put entire chopped pieces of these onto here like this. That's what I'm going to do. So anyway, next we're going to do is I'm going to show you basically how we get the sample into here and actually sample physically on the MV1 Verse Lab. Hopefully we'll get a way to optimize the SP and MV1 as sample buddies, because this one is obviously lacking what we want, and that's why we all crave to use this one or the 404 with the MV1. So check it out. We're going to go ahead and mosey over here. So, with a bit of tedium, we now have those phrases from the line input, from the SP, all on my MV1 now. Now, I've only done minor
to ever face the shadow of death.
apparently the ones where I normalized it are terribly loud, but they didn't have any percussion in them like this one right here. Normalizing this one would have really made it clip and made it do a lot of other things. So I'm not worried too much about this. I needed these to be a little louder anyway. So I must point out that as a sample enthusiast, there's no better way to understand the striking difference between sampling in the SP and sampling in the MV1 Verse Lab. Um, this is way quicker, it's way more creative, and like I said on here, I've now input uh, the samples from the past that the necessary samples to create the kit that I wanted in here. And I've made the fine tuning adjustments, finding the beginning, finding the end, uh, making the sample play, normalizing it, and making it exactly what I want as a base of a sample. I think this lends itself more to modern sample practices. Modern sampling practices are a lot different than the sampling practices of the golden era or even after that. General sampling practices are not basically, you didn't know the key of a song, you had to find the key with your ear. A lot of it didn't have a key match, so you just had to pull from other sound sources and kind of find and course tune the sample. You have to massage the sample into the tracks, and that dictated which samples you could use and which samples you tossed. Now you have entire kits that are designed to go together, and basically the loop packs and the sample packs are just a reskin of construction kits. Kits that are constructed to work together in the same key, at the same tempo, different variations of the said beat, but you never can really mess it up. And that is what the MV1 lends itself to, probably via the Rolling Cloud, probably any other sound pack or sound designer that is putting in packs. You could just import the WAV file into the MV1, but if you really want to get and make customized unique samples, unique to your style, unique to your box, this is a perfect way. Now, I also say that you can sample and chop in here. It's just not practical. The practical way is the more modern sample. And I think that's what they meant it for, and that's why they lean it this way, is because they're looking forward. The youth don't sample like us old school guys do. You know, the youth and even the newer producers stepping into the space. Everybody wants to make their beats quick, fast, in a hurry. You know, people brag about making 5 tracks a session or 10 tracks a day, and that's what this is made for. Once again, the workflow and even the flow of importing samples is designed for one thing: for finishing songs fast. And in that effort, I think they made the sampling more leaning towards the importing to the storage, full fleshed out samples that you might want to put on the looper track, time stretch a little bit, add some effects as a clip, and then call it a day. But if you really want to chop your own samples and have a ball, go ahead and use your SP if you got it, or if you plan on buying a Mark II, 404 Mark II, that would be perfect. Now, another way that I like to use my SP with my MV revolves around flipping them over to where the MV is plugged into the external input of the SP. Now, with the roles reversed and the MV1 going inside the external inputs of the SP, you can start to do exactly what you know how to do with your SP, and that's get creative. But this time, you could be sampling the MV1 into the SP. The cool thing about doing that is that some of the same effects and redundancies you'll find on here, you're kind of auditioning to them for the final mix on here. I'll give you an example. And so you get the picture. Just typical SP shit, right? So what do you guys think? SP, MV, working together in harmony, back and forth, sampling from one to the other. You can just get crazy with it, man. And I guess that's what I find cool about pairing these two together. And I'm glad other people brought it up for me to talk about. Thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.